forgiveness, as is defined by the American Psychological Association, is not merely accepting what happened or ceasing to be angry, but rather it involves a voluntary transformation of your feelings, attitudes, and behaviors so that you are no longer dominated by resentment and can express compassion, generosity, or the like toward the person who wronged you. So I want to start there as far as forgiveness goes, because there is a lot of misunderstanding around what forgiveness is. It's a common, when I do calls with people, I ask them to share with me what their biggest struggle is. I would say a half to 2/3 say forgiveness. And I think part of that is that forgiveness is a process and it's really hard. And part of that is because forgiveness is misunderstood. So we're going to go over some of that. And then if you have questions about forgiveness or about anything else, then you can, we'll jump into that as well. So what forgiveness or forgiveness and trust are not the same. You can extend forgiveness without trust being reestablished. So that is the truth. But what often is misunderstood is that offering forgiveness can only happen when you trust someone, or that when you forgive someone, you must also trust them. Now, that kind of talk is often coming from, I would say the second part of that is coming from the person who betrayed you. Often they said, well, you forgave me, so now you need to trust me. But that is just a misunderstanding. As you can see from the definitions, there's nothing about trust in the definition of what forgiveness is. Forgiveness can come before trust. It can come without trust ever being reestablished. It is not required, like trust is not required, because in order to offer forgiveness, because forgiveness is about your emotions and your feelings. So that you're not required to trust someone just because you've forgiven them. Trust is earned. Forgiveness is not earned. Forgiveness is granted to help you release the feelings and the poison of like the negative impact of what's going on. Let's see. Someone popped. Let's see. I feel like a lot of people talk about forgiveness but don't take the steps as far as reconciliation. Forgiveness is step one, but in order to remain married, reconciliation has to occur. Okay, let's come back to this and the questions, but that is a good one. I like it. Another misunderstanding about forgiveness is that it means forgetting or no longer being impacted by it. But as the definition shares, forgiveness is for you. It does not mean you are ignoring the impact of what happened. The impact and the pain can still be there after you've forgiven. You have to do the work to overcome the pain and the betrayal. There is work involved in forgiveness as well, but oftentimes forgiveness can come before the pain and the betrayal and the healing has occurred. So you have to do the work to heal your marriage, and forgiveness is just a piece of that puzzle, but it's not the be all end all that will solve everything. Another truth about forgiveness is that it allows you to release the anger and negative attitudes of the betrayal, so you are no longer poisoned by them. You're not carrying around that like anger, like I guess not anger might not be the right word, but just that like that bitterness is probably a better word. Like you're not carrying around bitterness, but extending forgiveness releases. People think it like releases them from the hurt or any consequences or lets them off the hook, but that's not true. It just releases the anger and negative attitudes of what you're carrying, but there's still consequences, and it does not lessen the impact just because you've offered forgiveness or let them off the hook in any way. I know it can feel like that sometimes, like if I forgive, then like he doesn't have any consequences, but it's like he's actually not suffering the consequences of you not forgiving him. you are suffering the consequences of you not forgiving him because you're the one carrying around the bitterness. He has to deal with the consequences of the lack of trust and the brokenness in the marriage and all of that. But whether or not you forgive him, only you will like reap the benefit of you. I mean, he will also as you continue to work on the marriage, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. It's forgiveness is for you, not for him. So, and then last one we'll talk about today, but forgiveness is a process and a daily decision. While it is a necessary part of healing, it cannot be rushed. So some people will try to jump immediately to forgiveness, or a lot of times in the church, you'll hear people talk about forgiveness and you need to forgive him and try to make it happen quickly or immediately. But I honestly, I think when you can allow yourself grace and give yourself permission to let it happen naturally, then it will take root and it will become easier and easier to make that daily decision when you don't put pressure on yourself to make it happen so fast. It is absolutely a process and it's not one and done. Like you will forgive and then the next day you may feel like I've not forgiven and you have to like work through it a little bit more. It is very important that you do get to a place of forgiveness, but do not put yourself in like do not put pressure on yourself or let anyone else put pressure on yourself, put pressure on you to provide it in a certain timeline. Just be patient and accept that this is a part of the process and that's okay.